This talk is brought to you by the Bamberg Mathematical Consciousness Science Initiative.
Well, thank you for the invitation, and I look forward to discussing with you how exactly what I do relates to what you guys do, because in some sense it seems to be diametrically opposite. Instead of mathematizing consciousness, I look at mathematics and think about how it is given in consciousness. So the question of the overlap of these two projects is actually really interesting, and I look forward to discussing that in the end of the talk. So in this talk, I intend to basically capture what I have been doing for many years. So talking about Husserl's view of mathematics, and especially from the point of view of his later works, especially from the point of view of Formal and Transcendental Logic that was published in 1929. So I don't really have any great thesis in this talk, except that the thesis is that this is Husserl's approach to mathematics. And it's more like a summary of what I propose it to be. So I will first give a kind of a minimal formulation of what phenomenology is. Recently, I have come across with many different ways of using the term phenomenology, so I just wanted to come clear what I think it means. And after that, I will go into formal and transcendental logic, and in the end, we'll give some guidelines about what kind of philosophy of mathematics one can get out of it. Minimal formulation of phenomenology, I think, first of all, for something to be phenomenological, it has to be about what Husserl says, things themselves. But that does not mean about Kantian noumena, but things, so phenomena as we experience in the world. So phenomenology is about this world, especially as we experience it. So it's a mainly descriptive approach about our experience of this world. It does not contain it does not aim at postulation nor reduction of any kind. And this is what is often referred to as metaphysical neutrality of phenomenology. There are some, refinements can be added to that, but we will get to that later in the Q&A if needed. So basically, since it's a description of experience of the world, it has to agree with our practice. In terms of philosophy of mathematics, it's clearly not logicism, it's not intuitionism, and it's not any kind of physicalism or reductive naturalism. And what I will argue is that it is largely in line with non-reductive naturalism, which is then given kind of transcendental elucidation. It accepts moderate revisionism, even though it's a descriptive approach. But as I will explain in the end, this is not kind of revisionism where you have the kind of a norm against which you revise something a priori or beforehand, but it's based on how things on the experiences and kind of clarification of how things could be. I will get clearer on that in the end as well. So whereas so the starting point is that phenomenology is about the world as we experience it. The second important, I think, requirement for phenomenology to be phenomenology is the idea of correlation, which is that there are two attitudes. Natural attitude is the one from which we start, or it's the one where we are. And the world, as it is given in the natural attitude, is the world that we have around us. And then there are all kinds of sub-attitudes and sub-worlds nested within these. For example, you can talk about, for example, attitude in each of the sciences. And for example, mathematical attitude or arithmetical attitude is what Husserl talks about in Ideas 1. And then the world of arithmetical attitude would be the world that you think is there when you are in the arithmetical attitude, or what you are focusing on. Then there's the transcendental attitude, which refers to discussion of how objects, how the natural attitude and the objects given in it are given. So it's about constitution. For example, in the previous talk, there was a lot about how objects of perception are constituted, or they are given in certain way in perspectively. So that's all about how natural attitude objects, there was a picture of a house, how it is given, examination of this is done in transcendental attitude. I am happy to clarify in the end if needed. So there are objective worlds, and then what Husserl talks about subjectivity. So we have experiences, subjective experiences of these objective worlds, and the transcendental attitude examines these subjective experiences of the objective world. Here there's this is transcendental attitude is then description of the constitution of the world, which is the same as the givenness of the world. And here phenomenologists are not interested in just describing everything, but in description, the focus is on general structures, as I believe is clear to everyone. Now, what is interesting is that there's development in Husserl's views. And it is such that he roughly he adds always more aspects that have to be taken into account in the phenomenological description. So logical investigations is usually understood to be about static phenomenology. So there, the discussion is about the givenness of an object. But then there's genetic phenomenology, and that means that it takes a kind of a dynamic approach of constitution of an object into account. So basically, it takes into account all the previous experiences that we have had with an object. So, for example, customs and habits are taken into account in genetic phenomenology. And then lastly, usually nowadays often talk is about generative phenomenology. That's what Husserl started to do in 1920s. That takes also historical and social factors into account. So in a way, the project is pretty much the same from the beginning. First, it's just static. Then the dimension of time is taken into account, and then in the end, also historical and social factors, how they affect our experiences. Okay, so then I will go to Formale und Transcendentale Logik. So this is a book that appeared during Husserl's lifetime, or he himself actually saw it come out in comparison to many other of his publications that are posthumously published. And he in it claims that here he gives a definitive clarification of the sense of pure formal mathematics, including formal syllogistics as correspondingly purified. According to the prevailing intention of mathematicians, its sense, namely as a pure analytics of non-contradiction, which the concept of truth remains outside the thing. So there are many things already here, but what I want to point out here is that this is where he claims to have clarified what is pure formal mathematics. And now formal here does not refer to formalistic mathematics, but it's more like his approach is more like structuralism. It's purely formal in the sense that it's not material at all. It does not mean that it would be formalistic. I think his view here is rather semantic, in fact. It includes formal syllogistics. So what is kind of interesting is that he thinks syllogistics as part of formal mathematics. And now what he here claims to be doing is that he captures the prevailing intention of mathematicians. So something that mathematicians are intending or want to be doing when they are doing mathematics, and what gives mathematics its sense in Husserl's view. And that is a pure analytics of non-contradiction, which the concept of truth remains outside the thing. Here he means that it's about pure mathematics and not about applied mathematics. The notion of truth refers to mathematics as it's applied to empirical world. So here he claims to have explained what is pure mathematics according to the mathematicians in his time. And later on, he, in a correspondence, writes to a friend of his that this work is his most mature, even if too concentrated work. And he also adds that he himself has to study it repeatedly, which I find it very interesting. So do I, but also Husserl needed to keep studying his own work. all this takes place in the generative setting of phenomenology. So it takes into account the social and historical development of mathematics. Now, what is how I think it takes place is that there's still a notion of correlation going on in generative phenomenology, and this is, I think, everything that I've said so far is pretty uncontested among most phenomenologists, but this is perhaps not so broadly thought to be the case. I think this is the way to look or read these later texts. So the correlation in Husserl's later works needs to take into account the historically and socially given world and how that is correlated to the subjectivity. So that gives a rise to the question that what is the historically and socially given world? If you think about your experiences of the world, it's not exactly immediate how it is historically and socially given. So what Husserl does is that he comes up with a new method that he calls Besinnung, and that is the way of approaching the historically and socially given world, and then the results of Besinnung are then subjected to transcendental examination. And this is really clear in Formal and Transcendental Logic. Husserl there claims in the introduction that the method to capture the sense of pure mathematics according to the prevailing intention of mathematicians is called Besinnung. That's what he says. And here the sense refers to what mathematicians are trying to capture. It refers to their goals and in some sense also values. And then he claims that his attempt is to clarify the unclear goals, point out shifts in meaning, see whether the methods really accomplish what they are supposed to do. So people may try to do something, but not being really clear about it, and then actually doing something else. So clearing out such shifts in meaning and figuring out whether people are really doing what they claim to be doing. And here, this is actually quite similar to the Penelope Maddie's naturalistic method. She defines it as the following: identify the goals and evaluate the methods by their relations to these goals. She has actually, she complains that this quote makes her sound too instrumentalist, but I don't want to make her sound that way. I just want to point to the similarity between the two methods. So this is the way I think Husserl thinks that mathematics is naturally given to us, and then the point of correlation is then to examine the transcendental givenness of it. So Besinnung gives you kind of mathematical naturalism. Transcendental here then means the study of conditions of possibility of what is naturally given. And then you get phenomenology, which is metaphysically neutral description of the structures of givenness. Now the transcendental investigations in formal and transcendental logic then examine the results of Besinnung to mainly to clarify the kinds of evidence that are sought for and to make explicit possible presuppositions of the mathematicians. So I will next talk about the kinds of evidence and then about possible presuppositions that are at stake here. And then in the end, he does think that there should be a kind of revision of concepts and principles according to their domains of application. And here is the moderately revisionary element. And what is crucial to it is that it is clarification of things that are found to be in experience. It's not something that you externally impose some normative views. So here's from Husserl about how to turn to transcendental investigation. So he says that turning reflectively from the only themes given straightforwardly, which may become importantly shifted. So you first have the natural attitude view of what mathematicians are doing, and that can be shifted. You turn reflectively to, you turn to reflect on it. And then you turn to reflect on the activity of constituting these activities with its aiming and fulfillment. So in a way, the activity that is hidden, or as we may also say, anonymous, throughout the naive doing and only now becomes a theme in its own right. So this transcendental examination makes explicit and brings about the, so to say, accomplishments of consciousness needed for mathematics to be there. So we examine that activity after the fact. That is to say, we examine the evidence awakened by our reflection. We ask it what it was aiming at and what it acquired. And in the evidence belonging to a higher level, we identify and fix, or we trace the possible variations owing to vacillations of theme that had previously gone unnoticed, and distinguish the corresponding aimings and actualizations. In other words, the shifting process of forming concepts that pertain to logic. And I hope to clarify this a bit next. So it's a lot about clarifying the kinds of evidence. So the idea is that the mathematicians aim at several different kinds of evidence. This is the idea here is this intention fulfillment structure. So when a mathematician wants to prove something, she intends something, and then the proof then fulfills this intention. Now these different kinds of evidence, the main ones are the one that is related to non-contradiction. So pure mathematician aims at non-contradiction, and when that is looked at transcendentally, it is evidence of distinctness, Deutlichkeit, and that is a kind of evidence that requires harmonious co-positability of things, that there's no conflicts in the evidence. And then there's also an evidence of when aiming at truth that relates to evidence of clarity or Klarheit. There are two ways of looking at this. I previously talked about applied mathematics and truth as coming from application of mathematics to empirical world. Then you get a kind of evidence of clarity in the sense that you seem to have your intention fulfilled in a person, in immediate evidence. But Husserl also talks about evidence of clarity in terms of givenness of abstract objects, and then it seems to refer to something like classical constructivism, that you have constructed the object so that this object is given to you as in person. And then in a different kind of evidence from this evidence of distinctness. So here you have objects given in person, somehow concretely, graspably, whereas in evidence of distinctness, you have co-positability. Nothing disturbs the harmoniousness of your experience. And in a way, both of these kinds of evidence have a very deep roots. Already in perception, there's a striving for non-contradiction, and also in a way being in touch with the world. So Husserl also talks about grammatical correctness being one kind of evidence, a further kind of evidence. That's kind of interesting because in many times in mathematics, it's not exactly obvious how you parse a theorem. So that's something that Husserl interestingly identifies as its own kind of evidence. And then there's, I think, openness to any further type of evidence. I don't think there is anything in phenomenological method that would require being restricted to these kinds of evidence. And indeed, Husserl himself talks about constructional infinities in Formal and Transcendental Logic, and that seems to be a kind of evidence where, for example, you in a way give fulfillment to set theoretical operations by means of, for example, constructive universe. So that's about evidence. So there are different kinds of evidence, and different parts of mathematics strive at different kinds of evidence. In particular, there is this more semantic approach, and then there is you could distinguish the constructive approach, and then there are possible other constructional approaches also mentioned in Formal and Transcendental Logic. Then, when examining the transcendental givenness of all this, Husserl also thinks that it is important to clarify the presuppositions. And what is here interesting actually is that in the ideas, Husserl seems to formulate his view in such a way that you have to get rid of all the presuppositions. But in Formal and Transcendental Logic, he actually says that you have to clarify them and be clear about them and not necessarily get rid of them. And these presuppositions are, for example, identity of meanings. And that's very funny because it's so obvious usually. So basically, when one starts proving something, the claim should stay the same throughout the proof, so that you don't vacillate your meanings. Reiteration or mathematical induction is presupposed, seems to be a presupposition in mathematics. And then Husserl mentions logical principles. And after that he starts to discuss that typically scientists are realists in the sense that they think that every claim is true or false. And he also suggests that whether this is a valid assumption has to be examined separately for each domain. He also claims that objects of mathematics are transcendent. They are not in our minds, but we treat them as something transcendent. Although the ideal objects are, however, constituted by us. And also, mathematics presupposes that the mathematicians are human beings with intersubjective relations and that there is a world and all kinds of things like that. But these start to be lower level presuppositions which are not typical of phenomenology, of mathematics alone. So, so what kind of philosophy of mathematics is this then? First of all, what is clear is that this is not an a priori theory of what mathematics should be like. So definitely not like the old classification between intuitionism, formalism, or classical mathematics. It's about what mathematicians do, what their goals are, what kinds of evidence they are aiming at, and what kinds of presuppositions they then have. And in that sense, it could be seen as a combination of a kind of a mathematical naturalism and a critical philosophy in Kant's sense. Looking at the what's in one of the quotes before, Husserl talked about the anonymous conditions of possibility of mathematical activity. It admits an open plurality of goals and epistemic values. If mathematicians suddenly start to do something completely new, phenomenologists should be able to deal with that as well. And then it leads to the idea that you should figure out what are the logical principles and basic concepts with respect to these different kinds of goals. And then the emphasis is on the epistemic goals and values and their critical reflective scrutiny. And as I said, or tried to explain, it allows moderate revisionism. So Husserl himself, for example, thinks that if we do our phenomenological reflection properly, we should have no paradoxes in mathematics. In general, he looks at mathematical practice within this historical social framework where mathematics is a practice, what mathematicians are doing. So basically, the idea then is that the transcendental examination of this practice focuses on different kinds of evidence, and given the assumed presuppositions. So, for example, assuming one set of axioms, what you are trying to get at, or whether to accept the axiom of choice or not, what kind of evidence is what you are aiming at. What is an open question, or I don't think you can get any clear answer from Husserl's text, is that he thinks all mathematics is constructed in the theory of judgments. So so when doing something, this is done by means of judgments, and he has a very broad view of theory of judgments. It can include all kinds of transformations. So judging is very widely understood. It covers all possible acts you may do in mathematics. But what exactly does this mean is a bit unclear. There may be many different views of the theory of judgments, even in Husserl's texts. And one way of thinking about it is that is some kind of automated theorem proving perhaps comes to mind at some point when he talks about kind of, in a way, decidability of this theory of judgments. So that's basically what I have to say here. I think I was 3 minutes too fast, but I am very happy to answer possible questions next. Thank you very much.